Hey guys, I just wanted to talk you through a couple problems to get you ready for tomorrow's quiz, just in case. So let's say you want to graph the equation y equals 3 sine 2x minus pi minus 1. We're going to start by finding our four transformations. So starting with our amplitude, which we pull the a from our equation, that's 3. Remember, sine and cosine are really the only equations that have an amplitude. All the other ones are infinite or none. If there's a negative in front, that doesn't mean our amplitude is negative. It just means our equation or our graph is going to be flipped over. Okay, so A for our amplitude. The period of our sine equation is 2 pi divided by b. Now, because I'm doing this because I see a pi in the equation. If you don't see a pi and you would rather use degrees, then we can go 360 divided by b. So again, b is 2. I'm going to do 2 pi divided by 2. The 2's cancel out, leaving a period of pi. Horizontal shift for all of our trig functions is c over b. Now remember, you'll only have a horizontal shift if you see parentheses in your equation, because that c is going to be that second value in the parenthesis. So we have a c of pi and a b of 2. And because it's a minus, then I know my equation is going to be shifted left. Almost missed that. It's going to be shifted to the right. And then vertical shift is the d at the end of our equation. That's -1, which means we're going to be moving everything down 1. Remember, this vertical shift we have also been referring to as our midline. Okay, so with those four numbers represented, we are ready to start our graph. I'm going to make it orange. I'm going to go ahead and draw my x-axis. Now my sine curve is going to start pi over 2 right, meaning I'm going to start it at pi over 2. The ending point is going to be the period away from that. Because our period is pi, if I take my pi over 2 and add pi to that, that tells me that this graph will stop, or this cycle will stop at 3 pi over 2. Now let's find the middle. Between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2 would be pi, and then the middles of both of those. So between pi over 2 and pi would be 3 pi over 4. And between pi and 3 pi over 2 would be 5 pi over 4. Remember, all we're doing is adding those values together and taking a half to find their middle. Okay, now my y-axis. My y-axis, I have shifted everything down 1. So I'm going to go down 1. And then from there, I need to label my amplitude of 3. So up 3 goes 1, 2, 3. And then down 3, 1, 2, 3, gets me to -4. So in looking at my y-axis, I should see my midline and then my amplitude up and my amplitude down. I'm going to get this guy out of the way. Okay, so now we're ready to plot points. Remember, a sine starts on our midline, oops, which I didn't draw in. So sine starts on the midline, which is at pi over 2. It heads up to that top amplitude, the maximum, back to the midline, hitting the bottom, and back to the midline. And then we have our nice, smooth curve. So that is one cycle of this sine equation. Okay, now let's say this wasn't actually a sine equation. What if it was the reciprocal? What if it was a cosecant? So I'm going to change my equation real quick. Everything's staying the same, except the sign is changing to cosecant. Remember, all of our numbers are going to stay the same, except our amplitude for cosecant is infinite, or none, if you'd rather do that, because amplitude is referring to the height of our curves, and these go up and down forever. Okay, so to change our sine equation, or our sine graph, into a cosecant, we need to create asymptotes. Anywhere the sine hit that midline, we're going to have an asymptote. So I have an asymptote at pi over 2. Ooh, that was really curvy. At pi and at 3 pi over 2. That maximum point is going to stay and flip up. That minimum point is going to stay and flip down. And that's all I would need to do to my sine to turn it into the reciprocal of cosecant.